Good afternoon, Saints fans. Welcome to Saints News Network, our pregame show alongside Brendan T. Boylan right here. I'm John Hendrix. Golly, it's crazy to think that we're already here at this point. Regular season finale. I'm here at Bank of America Stadium. Brendan's over here, not too far away from Charlotte. But man, how you feeling? How's things?
I'm good.
I got to meet Brendan yesterday, everybody, for the first time. So it was really cool. He took me to this awesome spot. I had some amazing fish tacos and stuff like that, and very cool French type bakery stuff. So got to brag on him a little bit.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So look, here we are. Right. It's week 17. The Saints, they can technically wrap up the top seed in the NFC. They need to win today. They have to have the Packers lose to the Bears, and they have to see the Seahawks beat the 49ers. Are we wrong for putting our faith in Mitch Trubisky? I mean, can this be done? And what do you think?
There's a lot of weird things that can happen week to week in the NFL. Obviously, the Saints are dealing with it themselves, having no running back room essentially outside of Ty Montgomery, and you call up Tony Jones Jr. So there's a lot of weird things that can happen in the NFL. Obviously, that's a little bit more COVID related, but you can't put it past, especially when you get to divisional games, right? Because divisional games, regardless of how good or bad the team is, those teams know each other. They want to win. There's a lot on the line, especially in this game for Chicago, right? If Chicago wins the game, they lock up a playoff berth. So it's not like Chicago's coming into this game and they're, 4 and something and they have nothing to play for. They have a lot to play for. And Mitch Trubisky, though he's got a lot of heat, and obviously the guys that came after him in that 2017 class at the quarterback position have outperformed him to this point. He's found a little bit of a resurgence and maybe instilled a little bit more trust into the Bears. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the offseason regarding him. Is he the guy of the future for them? But I don't think it's crazy. And same with the Seattle game. I mean, anytime that you're out and it's week 17 and you're still playing, because remember, in a weird way, the Seahawks could lock up the first seed as well. So everybody's got something to play for, and I don't think it's insane or out of the realm or out of the question to go, you know what, anything can happen.
Yeah, and look, the Saints are coming into this game. I don't want to say limping into this, but obviously we know the situation, what happened with Alvin Kamara. Tested positive for COVID-19. Second test revealed that he's positive, so he's got to be away for the team. He says he's not feeling any type of symptoms. We'll have to see, because I remember that happened with Ron Armstead as well, and then he started feeling a little bit more rough and stuff. So just a weird season, but that's a huge loss. And because of the tracing issues, this team loses Latavius Murray, they lose Dwayne Washington, and they lose Michael Burton, and even the running backs coach, Joel Thomas, they couldn't make the trip. So you mentioned it earlier. It's Ty Montgomery. You call up Tony Jones Jr., the undrafted rookie for the practice squad out of Notre Dame. What can we expect? I mean, you've got this offensive line fully intact. So you got Easton back at right guard instead of Ruiz, and you've got Andres Pete back at left guard. So is Montgomery and Tony Jones Jr. enough? Or are they going to be able to pound us on the ground just a bit? Or is it going to be more Drew throwing 40, 50 times type of game?
I think the Saints, if the game plan is to have Drew throw 40 or 50 times tonight, they've done something completely wrong. Tony Jones Jr. is a guy who is a true, big, powerful, mean runner, a guy that a lot of people, I think, were a little surprised wasn't taken with a day 3 draft pick back in April, a guy that could run between the tackles, very physical, and now is getting an opportunity to show that he can make the Saints team next season and be called up from the practice squad. I think he's got a lot of value there. If you want to go back to Montgomery, look, this guy was a receiver in college, makes the transition to running back out of pure need with the Green Bay Packers a few years ago, and people forget he was the number 1 back for the Packers and was very efficient in doing that. Now, he's a guy that is going to be more of a scat back. You're going to be able to play him out at receiver, put him in the slot, kind of similar to what we've seen with Alvin Kamara over the years, and then, of course, Pierre and Reggie, if you want to go that far. So I think the Saints are going to have a unique game plan for Ty Montgomery, a guy that's kind of been banged up and hasn't really been up to speed this season, but a guy when he was signed in the offseason, I think a lot of us here at Saints News Network thought he could be a big, impactful piece for the Saints. So now he gets his opportunity to shine, and maybe you're able to throw an extra wrinkle into the playbook once you get into the playoffs. So I think more than anything, this is an opportunity for two guys to prove that hey, I can be a big part of this team in the playoffs. And then, of course, for the undrafted rookie out of Notre Dame, a chance to prove, hey, I belong here and I can make an impact, whether it's on the practice squad or on the regular roster moving forward. But I don't think the Saints are going to sit and go, hey, Drew, we need you to throw the ball a gazillion times today. I think it's going to be, we've got to be smart about when we run the ball, and we have to be smart about putting ourselves in a position for these running backs to succeed. You don't want to get into these third and longs and have to just hand it off to a running back and they get 2-3 yards, and then they lose confidence. The offense loses rhythm, and the offense loses confidence. So you got to put everybody in the position to succeed, and I think they'll do that today.
Yeah, and look, like I said, no Michael Burton at fullback. It was Garrett Griffin, the tight end they called up, and as one of their placements. He's going to be out there and blocking, I guess. And so, look, we know how the Saints operate, right? I mean, there is no really such thing as a traditional position for a lot of players, but again, I think they can manage. I think they're going to have the run game working just fine. Having your offensive line healthy is obviously a big plus. Taysom Hill obviously is going to maybe get a few looks. I don't know as a runner necessarily, but I mean, we joke, but that could potentially happen. Obviously, Josh Hill, it's going to be a huge loss for the Saints, but I think Adam Troutman's been playing extremely well, and obviously you have Griffin who's going to play, but looking at Hill, he's lining up in the slot in some of his pregame stuff. But look, offensively, you still got Jared Cook. You still got a lot of great weapons. I mean, you still don't have Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, and obviously Deontay Harris, but this team has found a way, right? And the good news is they're starting to get some pieces back. Obviously, Nick Easton's back in the lineup. We talked about him. Andres Cheat's back. But not only that, Brendan, let's talk about the defense. Malcolm Brown comes back. Huge, underrated addition for the Saints defense. And they get their leading sack artist back in Trey Hendrickson. What do you think the defense is going to do against Teddy Bridgewater without Christian McCaffrey and Mike Davis out there running football?
Yeah, we're not even talking about the Panthers. They're pretty depleted at the running back position as well. I think the big thing to watch if you're a Saints fan is you want to see how Anzalone fills in with Quan Alexander and the terrible Achilles injury that's going to cost him the rest of the season. A guy who was playing very well, a guy that Sean Payton said it felt like you had him here for weeks. The first two games that he'd played alongside Demario Davis, it seemed like they had a great chemistry. But now here's an opportunity for Alex Anzalone, who will be a free agent in the offseason, to prove I still belong on this team and I can compete for a role on this team. Remember when he'd been healthy in the past, and he was a great addition to the New Orleans Saints defense, and a guy that we had said consistently, man, if Anzalone could stay healthy and be on the field, this Saints defense, he could really take them to the next level. So he's the guy that I'm going to watch. Obviously, you said Brown, super underrated guy in the run game. The Saints defense and rush defense has been so good consistently over the last 4 years. And he just brought another element this season, and he's been missed in the middle, especially because you don't have those guys on the outside. They're able to rush the passer, and I think Brown is a super underrated at getting to the quarterback as well. So that's going to be a great addition. The DBs are a little banged up. Obviously, no Gardner Johnson because of the COVID-19 list, and no DJ Swearinger as well. So you have a little bit of moving around there at the back end for the Saints today. But I think the Saints will do fine against Teddy Bridgewater. He's missing some weapons. And this is a weird scenario where what are the Panthers playing for? Are they're just playing for pride? They want to kind of put a little knock onto the Saints season. Obviously, division rivals, it's always hard. You're not playing inside the friendly confines of the Superdome. So New Orleans is going to have a challenge. But I think defensively, if you look, and this is weird, right, John? Because over the years, it's been the offense that's been super consistent, and you can always rely on the offense to do it. But this year, with the injuries to superstars like Drew and Mike, the defense has been the group that has really kept this team afloat. So I think they'll do it again, despite some of the injuries they have on the back end.
Yeah, look, and P.J. Williams, I thought he looked great last week against Minnesota. Obviously, I think the defense looked a lot better. And, again, you see all the things that they've had to overcome and different formations, different things that they've had to plug and play. So I think they keep this up. Again, it's Carolina. It's a division opponent. The Saints could be the first team to ever sweep the division. This was also something a little at stake here. Looking at a question on there, yes, Zach Vaughn and Alex Anzalone, as far as the linebackers in pregame walkthroughs, they were out there. So they had their base run defense or base defense out there with Anzalone and Vaughn. I think obviously you'll see a little bit more of Vaughn. So I'm interested to see if he gets to play a little bit more. He's been looking really good on special teams, filling in a little bit here and there. So Again, you don't have C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Slot position. It's going to be a little bit interesting here. So that's a big loss, but I could see him playing a little bit more base. We're trying to figure out maybe rolling some of these other guys that we just aren't really talking about. So, look, I feel like this should be another a win here. Again, I think when you look at it, what's at stake, you can't afford to lose this type of game. You can't have Seattle jump you. You don't want to drop down to 3. Uh, and at this point, that's the best way the Saints can do is control their destiny, do their part on it, and then just see what's happening. But obviously, we'll be Mitch Trubisky fans while this game is going on and hoping that they can play and beat the Packers. But, look, Brendan, let's go there. How does this game play out? Who's going to win and why?
Well, I don't think it's going to be particularly pretty, right? Both teams, as we mentioned before, they're missing not just their number 1 running back, they're missing their number 2 running back. The Saints are just completely depleted at that position. But the Saints have won ugly plenty this season, but it also gives an opportunity for Drew Brees to kind of get into a little bit more of a rhythm. And something we haven't mentioned yet, Emmanuel Sanders, he could be in for a payday. 8 receptions for Sanders today, and he gets a $500,000 incentive into his contract. So look for 17 to be targeted throughout the game. But I think the Saints come away with the victory by the score of 28-7. It was a pretty solid job of just containing Teddy Bridgewater and not giving up the big plays.
Yep, and I think you cut out just a little at the end. I think you said you took the Saints 28-17. I like that score prediction. I'm with you. I mean, I was sure last year when the Saints played the Panthers, and that game was just absolutely crazy, right? And, I think this is obviously they're the better team. I don't think they're going to have a Philly situation where they come out and lay an egg. I think they know what's at stake. They're going to try to wrap this up as early as they can. Hopefully can try to rest some starters. Obviously, you're going to be paying a little bit of attention and know what's at stake here. But, look, we know if they lose or if they win and the Packers don't do them any favors, obviously, then they're going to be playing on Wild Card Weekend. They'll play Saturday or Sunday. Game times are set. I think it's 12:05, 3:40, or 7:15, and that's both Saturday and Sunday. Remember, only one team gets a bye weekend, so it's crazy when the Saints are the 2nd seed that this is what happens. But, look, I feel good about what New Orleans is going to be able to do here. I think I'm going to take him 30 to 20 type of game. I think the Panthers will make it a little bit interesting later, but I still feel like the Saints defense is going to do what it needs to do and get escape with the win. So any parting thoughts or shots with the before we wrap up here?
Well, obviously, like you said, there's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching for Saints fans. You need a Seattle win, a Chicago win, and a win over Carolina for yourselves. That gives you the number 1 seed. Any situation outside of that, the Saints are going to be playing next week, like you said, John, and something to monitor there with the COVID situation is if the Saints do play on Saturday, Alvin Kamara is not going to be available. I know that's looking into next week, but it's definitely something to monitor. There's a lot of scoreboard watching that's going to happen. And, I said this a couple weeks ago when we covered the Kansas City game that you don't know how many more games Drew has. Adam Schefter reporting this morning that it is believed across the league that this will be Drew Brees' final season. So you're looking at potentially Drew Brees' final regular season game. So for those lifelong Saints fans and those Saints fans over the last 14, 15 years, make sure you enjoy it because you don't know how many more opportunities you get to see it.
Absolutely. We'll see what happens there. And, before we wrap up, I'd just like to take a moment just to say thanks to all the fans who've tuned in for this regular season. Also want to say I wasn't able to join the show this week, but, Barry Aristides, we lost him on Christmas Eve. And, look, he was a good guy. He did a lot of great things, and he's really had a lot of respect from fans out there. And so, my condolences to their family. On behalf of Saints News, we did a tribute article. We did a lot of things about him, but look, it's never a good thing, but, he's in a better place, obviously. And so, I knew him for a long time. I did a show with him in the 2015 season when it was kind of crazy a little bit. And we did a 2-hour podcast, and I don't know what we were thinking, but that's what we did. And Barry was the type of guy, man. He was lickety split on Johnny on the spot with anything that came up. Especially history. So if I ever wanted to know something in the past for Saints, then he was the guy to go to. I mean, nobody knew it better than him, right? And his stories, his experiences are something that we'll definitely miss. And, again, on behalf of Saints News Network and you, Brendan, we just want to say rest in peace and our condolences again. Huge loss for the Saints community. But, look, hate to end on a crazy note, but tune into us at halftime for Saints News Network. Kyle T. Mosley, Bob Rose. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you in the playoffs.